Well, hello everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back. It is another week of our location series. And
Yes. And if
yeah.
you've tuned in again, super thankful. The last one we were laughing quite a bit. We had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, and I'm curious to find out from others, because we're recording these quite close together. Sheena herself hasn't had a chance to try the the car washing videos to go to sleep to, but I would love to hear if anybody else has.
Yeah, let us know. Or you know what? Honestly, open to suggestions on how to fall asleep because apparently I've forgotten how to. I am gonna try Crystal's
Yes.
little car washing thing there, or even the pool.
All right, we're not going back down this tunnel.
No. What do you got for updates?
I have a couple. So, because I have been working from home and I put stuff on in the background as background noise, I've gone through a couple documentaries and stuff on Crave. Crave has some really good ones. They don't have a large selection, but the ones that they do have are really, really well done. One of them is the Paradise Lost series. Have you ever watched that?
I've never even heard of that.
Oh, yes, you have.
Have I?
Yes, it is I can't think of the name of them, but it's three teenagers, yes, teenagers who went to prison for the murder and dismemberment of three like young boys. But
Oh,
there is a
okay.
lot of controversy about whether they actually did it or not. And there's three separate documentary movies that are on Crave. Check them out. They're called Paradise Lost, Paradise Lost 2 and 3. Super original. But
Shout out to Crave.
no, I don't think Crave made them. I think it was
Oh, right.
HBO.
Okay.
They are incredibly well done by people who actually believed. I think the first one was pretty unbiased, if I'm remembering correctly, because I watched the first one a little while ago and then I watched the second and third one recently. But the second and third one are very much in the belief that the three boys that are in prison for this didn't do it. Yes.
Really?
Yeah. So it's very, very, very well done. All of
And
it. It is very graphic. I will warn you. There is crime scene photos that you can never unsee. They're
mm,
very dramatic. They are not something I would want to see again. But the
oh,
storytelling and the way they lay it out. West Memphis 3. The West Memphis 3. That's what they were called.
okay. Yeah, I'm on the Google right
Yes, the
now.
Google. The
The
Google's
Google.
gonna ruin the series of documentaries for you
Well,
though.
no, I just wanted to. I don't think I've actually even heard of this, to be 100% honest. So,
It is
now you're
in
giving me one more thing to look into, but
yes.
um, are they working on, like, they really believe that they didn't do it?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The documentary people are very convincing, but there's still people very firmly in the camp of they did do it. So it's really, I don't know, it's up to interpretation. Once you've
Yeah.
watched it, I'd like to talk about it because I'd be interested to know what you think.
Okay.
I would make a very horrible jury member because I don't know if I could be 100% decisive, unless it's like really cut and dry. But that's just me. So
Okay.
that wasn't even on my list of updates. I just went off on a tangent about this other documentary that I
Well, it sounds delightfully awful, so I'm excited to take a peek at it.
it's really, really well done. I was impressed by the documentary. That's where I got off on the tangent is that Crave seems to have a small library, but a good library of really well done documentaries. So I ended up watching two other ones, which are on my list here. The Pamela Smart documentary on Crave. Pamela Smart was the administrator at the school who convinced an infatuated teenage boy to shoot her husband.
Oh boy, yes.
This was about the same time around the same time as when Mary Kay Letourneau and stuff. So that was like it really was, they kind of turned her into this vixen type thing and predatory, which obviously any relationship with a student being it would be predatory, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when they started coming out with these news articles and when they made the movie about this case, Pamela Smart, it was actually Nicole Kidman, I think, that played her. And they really made it like it became a mockery of her, which I feel like really does an injustice to the crime and stuff, right? Like when you're mocking the people in the crime or the people that are killed, it just really doesn't do a good job of representing how awful a situation is.
Yeah.
So this documentary does a really good job of actually explaining what happened. It lets her talk a bit about whether she claims she didn't do it, that it was purely him and his infatuation. So there's some of that back and forth. And I don't like when they mock things like that. Like the Lorena Bobbitt one, I couldn't even finish it. They just made too many penis jokes and stuff. It was really not a good
Yeah,
documentary.
I know I started it as well, and then I was like, I was like, oh my God, like, why are we all laughing about this? And then, of course, like, and I'm obviously, you guys know by now, when I'm uncomfortable, I laugh. But yeah, there was a lot of penis jokes, and I'm like, his penis was bit off. I think this is kind of serious, but it
She didn't
seems to
bite it.
be,
She cut it off.
or cut it, right. But I think when there's somehow it seems to, when there's a woman in the lead of something, because my story is going to be a similar thing, it does seem to be made a mock of.
Yeah, it's trivialized, and
Yeah.
I don't like that. Like even if you watch the Lorena Bobbitt documentary, the doctor who sewed the penis back on laughs in the documentary, and I found him very condescending, and the laughter at the crime, I found it very stupid. Like I just
Yeah,
found it
there's
stupid.
everyone in that documentary laughs about that, and I'm like, like I don't really, yeah, it doesn't like I don't hear about it very often, but it's not funny because
No,
obviously, like, he could have died from that, and that is a life-changing thing to go through.
exactly.
Especially a urologist, like he's just
Yeah,
power laughing through the thing. You're like, sure, like
not
you're not
super
supposed to be
professional.
laughing. Yeah, not
No.
professional at all.
So yeah, so I liked the Pamela Smart one because it kind of took the mockery out of the situation, gave you a better idea of what actually happened in that story. And then I also watched the There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane. Have you watched that one?
No,
So
you
that
were
one is
way
a
ahead of me on this stuff.
this is stuff I don't actually physically watch it. I just turn it on and I listen to it because a
But you
lot of
still
it
retain
is
it.
I do. I retain a lot of it because I'm doing a lot of work for my day job that has a lot of like scrutinizing numbers and just like I just need something in the background that I can hear that I'm not actually looking at. So There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane is about this woman who drove her car the wrong way up the highway with her nieces in the car and all her children. And they ended up getting in an accident. Some people think that she did it on purpose, whereas some of her closest family and friends, including her husband, say there's no way she would have done that. So it's trying to figure out what actually happened, and it was really really good too. Very sad, but very good.
And that's all on Crave?
Both of them are on Crave. Lorena Bobbitt, I think, was
Oh,
on
that's on
Prime.
Prime. Yeah.
And what was the other one? And Paradise Lost was on Crave.
Okay. I
Yeah.
need to figure out my login to get back on there, but I'm especially interested in the Paradise Lost. So
Yes. Yeah.
I will certainly give that a watch.
Yes, absolutely. And to get away from, this is just a quick little update, to get away from like all the documentary watching. Last week we talked about a case that was related to Munchausen by proxy, and I had looked up because there was a really good book that I had read about a girl that had survived her mother's Munchausen by proxy, and it was called Sickened, and it was written by Julie Gregory.
Oh,
It is so, so good. Her story is heartbreaking, but very well written, very well done. I really, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
I am going to put that on my list now that I'm on Audible.
Oh yeah.
I can listen to books,
Yes,
so I find that that's much easier for me to rather than finding time to like actually sit down and read it.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, check that
I
one out.
I will. That's yay.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. I think I'm winded enough.
All right. Along the line of sort of what you're talking to, and you know, with that one case and the media and movies sort of making a mockery of it, that kind of leads me into my story quite well. This was a pretty famous story, I guess you would say, that happened in Massapequa. And there was a movie. Drew Barrymore plays the woman in the story. So this is a story of Amy Fisher and Joey Buttafuoco.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was kind of looking over this, I feel like it jumps around a little bit, but hopefully it's still quite clear. Amy, she was just 16, and Joey was 36 when their entanglement began. Amy, so to give a little bit of a background of her, she grew up quite privileged. Her family owned a furniture store and they were doing very well financially. And then Joey, so he was a 36-year-old man, owned an auto body shop. So the way that they meet is Joey, he is well known to the Fisher family, not only as their mechanic, but he's also a family friend, which you'll kind of find out through the story. Maybe not such a good one. Yeah, not such a good friend. No, he's not. He wouldn't be my top 10. um, so where were we there? Amy, so one day Amy's with her dad. He has to bring his car into the garage and she's hanging out with him. So she gets in there and she sees Joey and you know, she's just like, wow, this guy, he's hot. I like him. So she sees him a couple more times after that, I think, just kind of in and out of the garage with her dad and him being over at their house. Amy, so when she turns 16, this is sort of where the privileged part comes in. She's gifted not one, but two cars for her 16th birthday. First one she crashed, apparently. So her parents just got her a new one.
I wish.
uh, right? I wish somebody would just get me like one. I won't
You
crash it, I promise.
you and me both, and I can't promise that.
Actually, I don't think anyone can, but so because she had a bit of a crush on Joey, she would often find an excuse to bring her car into the garage now that she had her own. Excuses would range from like small dents, which I'm sure she like kicked into her car, or like a new paint jobs. I think she got like some stripes on her car. It was the 90s, so that was cool. So, anyways, one night while her car was at the shop, she was there on her own, and Joey's like, well, your car has to stay here overnight, so let me give you a ride home. Well, this is when they decide to make a stop at a motel and let you know it wasn't just for a nap. If you get where I'm going.
I think
So
people not listening get where you're going, Sheena.
yeah. Want to make sure it's super clear. So I'll let you know that Joey, he was married to his high school sweetheart. Her name is MJ Buttafuoco. And at the time that he met Amy, they had two children. They were 7 and 10 at that time. So, what Joey and MJ moved to Massapequa from Baldwin, New York, due to Joey's excessive partying and lack of financial stability. He was always out just drinking, doing drugs, having a good time, spending all his money. And so MJ's like, you know what, we got to move. So they went to Massapequa where they thought that their life would be beautiful and wonderful. So while Joey's being a fantastic family man and mechanic, he's continuing to hang out with Amy. This time she has a job at the Massapequa Mall as a sales clerk. However, she quickly gets fired. I have no idea why. But then at just 16 years of age, Amy gets introduced into the sex trade, specifically into an agency called ABBA Escorting. Joey was actually well known to this agency. He had often been dealing coke and partying with many of the women. So, given that he was familiar with the agency, it's alleged that he had something to do with Amy getting the job at ABBA. Nothing is really written in stone, but kind of seems like he may have had a part in that.
Hmm.
So between school and her job at ABBA, Amy's becoming quite attached to Joey, which usually happens when you're 16. So she's quite bothered by the fact that Joey has his wife. It feels like MJ's kind of getting in the way of what their love could be. So a few weeks into, I'm going to say a few months probably actually, into her affair with Joey, Amy's just chilling with her high school friend Chris Drellos. While they're hanging out, she casually asks Chris if he has access to a gun, which is, a conversation any 16-year-old should be having.
You
At which
know,
point,
all of them should, right?
yeah, it's totally natural. It's exactly
Oh.
what you should ask someone. God. So, so Chris is like, well, I don't have a gun, but let me introduce you to my friend Steven. He's got a few guns at home. Naturally, Amy starts chilling out with Steven, and she offers to pay him $600 to follow MJ, but if you go around for 2 months. So this now brings us to November of 1991. She asks Steven if he wants to hang out one day, and says, kind of her plan that she'd like to get MJ out of the way. Steven offers to bring one of his guns and drives her to the Buttafuoco's home. Amy then asks Steven if he would hide with a gun and would shoot MJ when she opens the door. So Steven, I guess, originally said yes. So Amy walks up to the door as with the ploy of selling candy. So she's got some candy in her hand. She rings the doorbell, and MJ comes to the door, and Amy goes, would you like to buy some candy? At first, MJ's a little bit hesitant, however, ends up buying some. I mean, who can resist buying some candy? So at this point, Steven's scared, and he runs back to the car without shooting MJ. So this makes Amy furious. About another month into their affair, Amy gives Joey the ultimatum that she'll stop seeing him if he doesn't leave his wife. Joey tells Amy that actually he should probably stop seeing her and focus on her family. During some time in there, Joey introduces Amy to his friend Paul Makeley that owns a local gym. It seems that he did so in hopes that maybe Amy would latch on to Paul rather than himself. So Amy then begins a sexual relationship with Paul, who I should mention is also, in his late 20s, so also extremely inappropriate.
Hmm.
However, she remains in love with Joey and continues to see him occasionally. Paul asks that Amy, so he's starting to fall for Amy. He asks Amy to pick between him and Joey, but Amy is in love with both of them. And it said that sort of Joey, in between his time of trying to stay away from Amy, it was also that he was trying to sabotage her relationship with Paul, yet still refusing to leave his wife, which was obviously confusing for Amy at the time. So this enrages Amy again, and she begins obsessing over getting MJ out of the picture. One day, Amy's back at the auto body shop hanging out with Joey, and he had a bunch of promotional t-shirts there. So he gives her one of the t-shirts from the shop, and it said that Amy sort of wore this frequently. She would wear it to school, she'd brag to her friends, talk to sort of everybody about the affair that she was having with Joey. Amy suggests later that she does recount Joey often complaining about his wife during their time together, or that he would say things like he might shoot her one day because marriage is until death do us part, but I can speed up the last part,
Mm.
which is very romantic. This awkward love triangle is happening, so we're just going to skip ahead to mid-May of 1992. Amy Fisher, for whatever reason, she's in Brooklyn, New York, hanging out. She meets a guy named Peter Quincy. After hanging out a few times, she asked Peter if he could get her a gun. Peter was an honor roll student, however, did live in a rough part of Brooklyn, so he said he could likely find what she was looking for. Peter has a very quick turnaround with this, and by Tuesday, May 19th, he contacts Amy and lets her know that he has what she's looking for, which turned out to be a semi-automatic 25 caliber Titan. I don't
Yeesh.
really know a lot about guns, but that sounds pretty powerful. As they most are. So, so she asked Peter if he would drive up to Massapequa and meet her at her house for 11, and that she would purchase the gun from him at that time. So Amy's at school at the first part of the morning. So this is just again weeks before her grade 12 graduation. After her first class, she goes to the school nurse and requested to go home for the day due to illness. Amy then meets up with Peter and buys the gun for $800. She then asks Peter if he would kill MJ for her, but he refused. However, still offers to drive her and sell her the gun. They pull up to the Buttafuoco home around 11:30 a.m. Amy then gets out of the car, walks up to the Buttafuoco home, and rings the doorbell. MJ comes to the door again, not clear whether she recognized Amy from the first time or not, but Amy asks, "Is Joey Buttafuoco your husband?" When she responds yes, Amy pulls out the t-shirt that she had been given by Joey and begins to tell MJ that, in fact, her husband is having an affair, but Amy says with her 16-year-old sister, just to see what sort of reaction she could get out of MJ. MJ sloughs this off and just asks Amy to leave right away. Amy, I guess, was kind of feeling dismissed and ignored, and this fills her with a little bit more rage, so she reaches for the gun and she fires it. MJ drops to the ground, she's bleeding. Amy drops the gun and runs to the car, but Peter's like, "You have to go back and get that gun." So Amy runs out of the car and goes back and picks up the gun, and then they leave. A neighbor hears the gunshot, runs over, finds MJ unconscious, immediately calls 911, and then also calls Joey. A helicopter comes, airlifts MJ to the hospital. She goes straight into surgery as her carotid artery had been severed, base of her skull shattered, and her right eardrum had been ripped. Somehow, MJ lives after being shot in the head. She wakes up around like 3 a.m. after her surgery and everything and gives her statement to the police. Joey's obviously sitting there holding her hand, and by the description of the young girl, Joey knows right away that it was Amy. So the next morning, while Joey and MJ are at the hospital, Amy's just out carrying on with life as if nothing had happened. She's actually registering for fall college classes. She goes to visit Paul at the gym. However, her freedom doesn't last very long. She's arrested on the suspicion of attempted murder. While all of this is going on, the press is kind of having a heyday with this, and the media coverage begins to blow up. So this is sort of, and then they dub Amy as a Long Island Lolita, basically kind of slut-shaming her and sort of turning this into, obviously she did do some shooting and stuff, but
Yeah.
It becomes a sexual thing rather than based on the crime, as we kind of chatted about earlier. So the media focuses more on Amy's sexual past rather than any other aspect of the story. Joey repeatedly denies any claims of any sexual contact between himself and Amy. And then Joey starts to begin to get some fame from this. So he's invited to like Howard Stern, different shows. And while MJ's in the hospital recovering, he's on stage, laughing it up, seems to be having a good time. So this brings us to June 2nd, when Amy has her first bail hearing. Her lawyer was requesting a $50,000 bail. However, it was set to $2 million, which is still the highest in Nassau County. So it seems like a 16-year-old girl got the highest bail amount possible. So given that amount,
considering the fact that her family is well off, I would think that that's probably
why they did
it, because a well-off family is more likely to hightail their kid out of there. Let's be honest, they have the resources to do it, right? So
yeah, no, $2 million's a lot of money.
It is. You mentioned the interviews with Howard Stern and stuff. Have you listened to those?
I actually haven't, and I really should have, because I think when we did this, I was just so focused on getting it, getting this together, and then we just kind of kept on with this and researching other things. But that's good that you brought that up, because I'm actually interested in watching that, because I do want to see Joey's reaction and sort of just how he's presenting himself.
Yeah, I did. I listened to one of them, and
Oh, did you?
Yeah, like a long time ago. And it is super condescending and very much makes light of it. It's why people started to become suspicious of him and his actions and stuff, right? So
yeah, well, because if somebody just shot your wife in the head, should you be on stage laughing and doing all these interviews? Probably not.
I'm gonna give you a hint. The answer is no.
Oh, good. I got the answer right. Yeah, the answer is always no.
Yeah.
So, Amy obviously didn't get bail that day because I don't know too many people that can just pull 2 million out of their pocket. During this time, Amy's lawyers were like, you know what? We should probably look at charging Joey with statutory rape given the age difference.
Mm-hmm.
However, they were having a really difficult time doing this. Not long after the first bail hearing, and once the full story is told to police, Peter, the buddy there that got her the gun and drove her, he ends up getting charged with possession of a weapon along with two other charges, which I'm not sure 100% what they were. At this time, so Stephen and Paul are both, her other two friends there, both kind of freaked out and they both come forward worried that they would be prosecuted. So they come forward to give any details possible in exchange for immunity. So them doing this does confirm to the DA that the attack was premeditated, which
Mm-hmm.
obviously is another strike against Amy. Amy's parents, then struggling to get their girl out of jail, they put their house up for sale and they sold their store, they put their house up against it and then they sell their store trying to raise all the bail money. While this is going on, Amy's lawyer got wind of a network that was working on something big, sort of at Amy's expense, which sort of happened anyways. But so they decided to strike a six-figure deal with one of the media networks
Mm-hmm.
in exchange for Amy's direct story. So now Amy has enough money for bail and she gets released in time to celebrate her 18th birthday. So she's
Because
out.
that's the priority, right?
Yeah. So the day she gets let out, I guess she celebrating her birthday and she's out having steak dinner with her lawyer and her parents and everyone's celebrating. And then there's MJ in the hospital who can't even open her mouth to eat. So she's
Ugh.
obviously, plus, like, she's scared. She's, like, so yeah, anyways, she's upset that Amy's just out having a good time. During this time, during Amy's kind of encouraged to take a plea bargain, saying that she could get 5 to 15 instead of 25. But Amy's just roaming around free, so she goes to visit Paul at the gym. And he allows her to come over because, like I had said, the media sort of got really involved in this. He had been asked to set up a hidden camera. Paul's like, you know what? Yeah, sure, come on over. So the hidden camera catches Amy discussing details about all the money she could make, what she could do with it, et cetera, et cetera. So Paul's paid 10 grand for recording this, and that's released to media outlets and the police. Amy is again arrested and enters into a plea bargain. So she ends up getting charged with attempted murder and is sentenced to 15 years. So that's going to bring us to September 1992. Amy, she then attempts suicide. So then the courts go, well, you know what? She's an unreliable witness or resource, so we're going to drop the charges of statutory rape against Joey because of
Wow.
her suicide attempt, which is just terrible. But good news, in February 1993, two of Joey's employees, I'm not sure why they came forward or what happened there, but they come forward to testify that Joey would often actually brag about sleeping with a 16-year-old girl. And then another 20 people came forward and testified, including a John that recorded his sessions with Amy. On the tape, Amy is heard discussing her experiences with Joey. And so Joey is then found guilty of statutory rape, sentenced to a whole 6 months, and serves 4 in Nassau County Jail.
You must people must really hate you for that many people to come forward and say, "Oh yeah, he told me all about it."
Yeah, how do you get 20 people to be like, yeah,
I
like,
can't get 20 people organized to do shit.
I know, I can't get 20 people to come to my birthday, let alone like, I don't know. I guess hate is a little stronger, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And I don't know what led his employees to be like, you know what, screw this guy. But it started sort of this ripple effect. So, I mean, he did only get 6 months and serves 4, but something happened at least, I guess.
Yeah.
So Amy gets released in 1999. She then goes on to marry a former New York City police officer. They have 3 children together and divorced in 2015. I think it was probably before that. Amy spent some time in the adult film industry. And since the incident, which is pretty crazy, Joey and Amy have actually met for dinner and had a few TV appearances together, which is super strange.
Yeah.
And I think MJ may have been involved in one of the TV experiences. So it was very like blown up and commercialized almost by the media, which is awful that it sort of went that way.
Yeah.
MJ, her and Joey, they divorced in 2003, which seems about right. They had both gone on to get remarried. I know that MJ's wrote a few books. And anyways, that is the story of Amy Fisher and Joey Buttafuoco.
Wow. I heard you tell this story before. I have watched the Drew Barrymore movie. I have read the stuff, and it's greasy. Like, it's just
so greasy. And it's like, this guy is a sleazeball for sure.
super sleazeball.
You know, she was 16, you know, obviously not shooting anybody is ever okay, but
No.
there should have, you know, there was less of a focus on sort of his part in things, and it does seem a little strange that he was just so willy-nilly with everything almost afterwards, and the fact that like had TV experiences and dinner and everything after her serving her time. Like, if someone shot someone I loved, I'm not sure I would want to go out for dinner with them.
No. And I do remember you had mentioned before when we recorded this that they did a television appearance where they all stood together as if it was water under the bridge. No effing way would I stand beside a woman. I don't care if she was 10 years old when she did it. I'm not standing beside a woman who shot me in the face. So you slept with my husband. You shot me, but it's okay.
But you gave me candy once, so we'll call it even. Like, no,
it's not right. Now, having said that, I've also been there. Yeah, a lot of blame was put on this teenage girl who probably doesn't know how to regulate her mental stability, probably has a lot of issues as it is to start with, clearly being in the lifestyle she was, having a relationship with a man at that age. But I've been the 16-year-old girl infatuated with the 20-something guy, and it never goes well for the 16-year-old girl.
It definitely does not. And the whole focus ended up shifting on her sexuality and the fact that, you know, she was so seductive and all of these things. And it's like, whoa, she was a teenager. So
yeah, she was 16. At 16
Yeah.
years old, you are trying to figure out who you are. And for 16-year-old girls, sometimes that means you're trying to figure out who you are, like sexually or mentally around your sexuality. So it sucks that it became the focus of who she was, because it may not have been, you know.
Well, exactly. And I mean, there's some history, I guess, of different things that had maybe happened to Amy when she was younger. Definitely an interesting story and very kind of seedy. There's definitely more going on, or had gone on, I guess, that sort of came to light, but the media definitely ate it up. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think she probably took on blame that wasn't necessarily hers. I mean, she got the time she deserved because, and probably could have served more, because the fact is she tried to kill somebody. But I think publicity-wise and life-wise, she probably took a bigger hit than other. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that story.
Well, that's sad.
Yeah.
I mean, we do talk about murder, so it's not like we're talking about Teletubbies over here. Those are also sad. Why am I talking about Teletubbies?
Those actually creep me out more than a serial killer. Let's be real.
They're terrifying.
They're so terrifying. And have you ever seen them in black and white? It's so scary. Not even lying. Watch it.
No, I'm good. We're trying to find reasons.
I don't know why I know that, but I do.
We're trying to find reasons to go to bed, not to not go to bed. And Teletubbies in black and white should not be bedtime.
Okay.
Conversation.
Well, start your morning that way.
Okay. Good call.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us yet again.
And we look forward to next week, where we start talking about some of the Cecil Hotel cases.
So very creepy.
You are so excited
Yeah.
about this.
I am so excited because the Cecil Hotel, like, I want to stay there, but I don't because I feel like something bad would happen. But
Um,
it's so fascinating to me.
See, I'm worried about something happening at the Cecil Hotel, not because I believe in ghosts. We've had this conversation where I'm not sure I believe in ghosts and blah, blah, blah. What I am concerned about happening is it's right next door to Skid Row.
Yeah. Well, that's
Like,
probably why a bunch of weird stuff happens there, but I would
uh,
still go visit one day, maybe.
maybe.
Just might not sleep there.
Well, clearly you're not going to sleep even if we do stay there anyway.
Yeah,
So,
I'll be on the lookout all night.
all
All
right,
right,
guys,
guys.
it's
Thanks for
bedtime.
joining. Yes, it is.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.